welcome to another episode of the Lollygaggers Fantasy Football Show. This is, of course, episode 2. Once again, we've just got a solo show going this week. It is just me, Zang, the usual co-host of the pod. This one is on me, folks. Ace and I were supposed to record this evening. I had some stuff come up this time we had planned. No other times ended up working out, so I'll put my hands up, say my apologies. This one is my fault, but it's okay because I am here to walk you through another week, and we should be back on our new regular schedule, I should say, starting next week. So it is been a lot of fun to have some fantasy back, especially for those of us who have been out of the baseball playoffs for a bit. Not much to do. It's fun, having something to keep an eye on, and especially in these dynasty leagues, really keep a close eye on. So just a quick reminder of how we'll run through things. We'll start obviously with the matchup minute, run through kind of the matchups themselves. Gonna try it a little bit differently this week, where rather than kind of going day by day, just kind of talk over the general themes of each team. Let me know what you think. Definitely, as I always say, we do this for you. So let us know, what you prefer. Of course, we'll go over standings, some bench blunders, team of the week, some quick, wasted waivers, guys that were left out there, and then preview next week's notes, which are starting pretty quickly on Thursday. So we will get started with our first matchup of the week. These were, of course, the ones we did a little preview of last week. This is the Mike versus Sammy Yanks matchup that will be starting us off. Coming in, Sammy did have a 58% chance of taking down Mike. Sammy was coming into the week, obviously 1-0, having won his first game. Mike also had won his first game. You might remember from our little match preview that all of the teams going up had I think the same record as each other. So either we were got a lot of 1-1s now, and obviously with some of them we have some 0-2s and a few 2-0s. So that was kind of a fun little theme that everybody had the same records. They were all fighting kind of to see who would have the better record. In this case with Mike and Sammy Yanks, they were both going for that perfect 2-0 start to the season. And Mike had a solid performance here from his quarterback, or his starting quarterback, I should say, Caleb Williams, who had 17. He had a really nice performance, too, from CeeDee Lamb, 20.2 points from the Dallas wide receiver. Unfortunately, where it got a little dicey for Mike was in the Justin Fields category. Last week I said, who the hell would have expected, 29 points from Justin Fields? Well, 3.98 is a little bit closer to what we might have expected from him on the regular. I don't think it'll be quite that bad. I don't think it'll be quite as good as it was either. But yeah, Fields came down a little bit more to earth here as Mike scored just 116 points. A little bit tough when neither one of your quarterbacks crests 20 points there. Travis Etienne did have 16.9, and that was in Mike's flex spot. Really solid there. And then good performance from his special teams with the kicker putting up 12 and his Seattle Seahawks defense putting up 14. Wouldn't be quite enough, though. As we know, Sammy is obviously a really dominant team here. We talked about what is the Sammy formula. Well, it's Lamar Jackson, it's Christian McCaffrey, and it's Saquon Barkley. 26, 22, and 17 points from those three respectively. That's gonna get it done. Never mind, we got 12.9 points from Emeka Egbuka out in Tampa Bay. Solid 11 from Warren in Indianapolis there. And hey, 23 points from your kicker and Brandon Aubrey. That's not too bad. That'll certainly get it done for you. 14 from Arizona's defense as well. Can't complain too much there. So that is 148 to 116. Sammy to Mike respectively. Sammy does move to 2-0 with Mike sitting at 1-1 now. We'll move on to our next matchup, which is KJ Lee versus Flaming Prius. This was one of our matchups where we had both teams coming in without a win. Obviously, looking to turn that around, and we obviously had some disappointing ones here. Flaming Prius, again, went with the single quarterback system. It seems to be working. Maybe not quite so much in the first week as he lost, but to give a little preview, it worked out pretty well this week. We will start over on KJ's side, though, where Jared Goff put up a frankly unbelievable performance. 33.9, fantastic from the quarterback. He had solid work from his running backs too, 19 from Bijan and 13 from Swift in Chicago. Unfortunately, a little bit of another disappointing performance from A.J. Brown. In that first week, he just put up 1 point. This week, 7. So, hey, not terrible, but we all know that you want more from A.J. Brown. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Trey McBride had 13 points here as his tight end. And then, solid performance, 10 from McManus, the kicker, 11 from DK Metcalf. But it was over on Flaming Prius' side that we really saw the sparks fly. 23 in a nice bounce back from Dak Prescott. Irving and Taylor, his running backs, had 18 and 29 respectively. Jonathan Taylor, there was 29.5. My goodness. Wouldn't be the highest scoring, what do you call it? Of course I can't. The highest scoring room, shall we say. Running backs were impressive. Wide receivers, even more so. Jamar Chase and Malik Neighbors, 36 and 37 points respectively. Not much more to say about that. That is absolutely unbelievable. Obviously, we are working in a PPR league, so if they're getting a lot of those receptions, that is pretty helpful, but it takes a hell of a performance to put up 37 and 36 points. Those mid-30s are obviously unbelievable. Not too bad either. 18 points from Jameson Williams, also from Detroit. Obviously, they had a pretty impressive game against Chicago out there. Not to preview too much, but it could have been even more impressive. Keep an ear out for another wide receiver from Flaming Prius's bench that will, of course, come up in the blunders. Didn't end up mattering for him, though, as he was just a fraction of a point shy of hitting 200 at 199.14. 139.28 was not bad for KJ Lee over there. Solid performance. Let's just take a quick look at the rest of the league. That would have beat, let's see, count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That would have beaten 8 of the other teams. So, top 4 scorer, unfortunately, fantasy's a game of matchups, and a bit of poor luck for KJ Lee continues as he goes up against the highest scorer. I'm trying to remember now. See if I can pull it up real quick. Did he play Al Martinet in week 1? Because if he went up against the 2 highest scorers in a row, that would be ridiculous. No, that was JMC. Never mind. Pardon me. KJ lost by just that fraction of a point to Mike. So maybe more painful in a little bit of a different way there, but he'll certainly be looking to bounce back. And hey, with a performance like that from Goff and Bijan, is always going to be solid. We have a lot to count on. Can't forget Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. He had 18 points. Don't want to miss out on that. But looking for a nice bounce back from KJ Lee next week. And yeah, Prius is certainly feeling a little bit better than he did in that first week as he lost. Well, we'll move on down to our next matchup, Rangers-Cowboys versus Anna Kendrick. This one was quite close. Just a few points ended up separating them, just 4 points to be specific. We'll start over on Rangers' side where we saw Patrick Mahomes. He had a really nice performance, 23-08. Not world-breaking, but solid. And, he's got a 26 and a 23 on the board now. That's what you draft Patrick Mahomes for. He is going to be consistent. We obviously know that Chiefs system is so fantastic. A couple of nice performances in the running back and wide receiver rooms, respectively. Josh Jacobs and then Nico Collins had 14 points each for Rangers-Cowboys. He did have a really nice performance from his flex spot in George Pickens, who had 17 points. Travis Kelce just 10. And not to jump too far ahead once again, but it's the second week in a row he's been outscored by another tight end. Obviously, he's getting a little bit up there in age. Might be worth considering, if he has that spot. But then again, he's Travis Kelce. As soon as you bench him, it's going to come back to bite you. So that is certainly a bit of a tough one. And again, not stupendous from CJ Stroud. Better than last week when he only racked up 9. He got 14.9 this week, so almost 15 there. But boy, you really want more from a guy who, coming into last year was considered, one of the major up-and-coming quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in the league, and definitely disappointed last year. Is not looking so good this year. It'll be interesting, but I think as they have a few new weapons out there in Houston. So as he settles into that system a little bit more, or I guess a new player settle in, I should say, it's sort of his system. I think he should be doing, a little bit better. So solid from Rangers Cowboys as he put up 121.36 points, but Anna just bested him with 125. Taking a look at how he got there, it was mostly on a handful of big performances where Rangers kind of had him spread out with a few of those low teens, and, of course, his high one, Mahomes, with the 23. Bo Nix had 21 for Anna. Jahmyr Gibbs had 19. Danny Akane had 26. I got to watch him kind of beat up on the Patriots. That wasn't too much fun. Trevor Lawrence with 21. And kicker Chris Boswell back again with 12 points. That's ended up being a great pick for Anna there. So some of those big ones, a little bit disappointing from Washington's defense. 2 points there, but they were going up against Green Bay, who are obviously a solid team there. So that's sort of how Anna found his path to victory. 125 to 121, as I said. Anna is now sitting at 1-1 with Rangers at 0-2. Our next matchup for the week is Bose versus Zang. It is my matchup. This one, you might remember, came in really not favored to win this one. It was 62% for Bose. I think that was one of the highest percentages of him winning, and the projections did not like me most of the weekend. Even when I was leading by like 25 points, 30 points, 40 points, they were like, he's coming back. And that's because Jalen Hurts was coming. Not only Jalen Hurts, but of course, Kyler Murray as well. Murray over on Bo's side did put up, again, solid, not fantastic, but solid 15 points. It's pretty disappointing. It's just 11 from Hurts. You expect more than that from your quarterback, especially if your quarterback is a guy like Jalen Hurts. And after his 24 in that opening week, just 11 is definitely a little bit disappointing. Nothing disappointing though from James Cook, who racked up 26.5 points. That was obviously very solid. Not great in the wide receiver room with just 4 and 9 over on Bo's side. And the Bills defense with 13, very, very solid performance. That did end up racking him up 110 points, but over on my side, I got lucky with some pretty impressive performances that did end up scoring me 136.5 points. Drake May, who had a disappointing week 1, boy, was it nice to see him cooking. Was it against the Dolphins? Yes. Is it going to look like this every week? Probably not. I can hope. But it was a lot of fun, obviously. 26.3 points for him there. And again, nice sort of showing of Drake May. Took him pretty high, so it's nice to see. Speaking of guys I took pretty high with my first round pick, 12th overall, I took Amon-Ra St. Brown, pardon me. I'm just 8 points in that opening week, and I'm thinking, oh God, what have I done? You might remember last week I was mentioning I think I had the second overall pick, and I took Breece Hall last year. Ended up being a fucking disaster. Just awful. And I'm thinking, oh my God, have I done it again? Did I screw up my first round pick? 39.2. Not so much. He did very well there. 2 carries, 9 for 11 on receptions, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That'll rack you up 39 points. Ramondre Stevenson, who you might remember, I was kind of like, oh, do I start this guy? Do I start someone else? 21.2. Glad I started him, and that ever-solid 19 points from Baker Mayfield. So, bit of a stars and scrubs performance for me here. Derrick Henry, hero of last week, put up just 2.3 this week. It'd be really great if I could get him and Amon-Ra St. Brown going at the same week rather than just trading off, but, I'm sure we'll be fine. And my lauded Denver defense, which I was, let's admit it, rightfully mocked for taking as early as I did. They racked up a grand total of 0 points this week, so not quite as nice. I was patting myself on the back a little bit after last week. Oh, best defense, 16 points. Not so much this time, but that is okay. So I did end up taking this matchup against Bose. Bose falls to 1-1 in the middle of the pack there, while I slide up to 2-0. Our next matchup is Ace versus JMC. You might remember that Ace versus JMC was projected as a 50-50 coming into the week. So this one we were obviously pretty excited to look at. Ace got some bad news early on. Joe Burrow racked up just 7 points, but it's why it was just 7 points. He left the game early with an injury, and as we now know, obviously being a few days in the future, got a pretty bad case of turf toe, and he's going to be out for, they're looking at 3 months probably, so tough break for Ace. You got to figure he scores more than 7 points, and this matchup did end up being just 14 points apart. Does he get 14 more? We don't know, but to have, potentially lose a matchup on that and to know that you are missing your QB1 is certainly tough. I shouldn't say QB1, knowing who Ace is a fan of. We'll get down to that guy in a minute. Chuba Hubbard did really solid, though, 18.7, and David Montgomery with 13.1. Nice work from Ace's running back room there. Bit more disappointing on the wide receiver side, just 9 from McConkey, but T. Higgins, of course, with 14 did a solid job hauling things in. Quinton Johnson, who obviously had that 24-point performance on the bench last week, put up a solid 15 this week. Love to see that from a wide receiver. And Ace's guy, Justin Herbert, with 18 is, again, a nice, solid performance from his quarterback. 13 from the Pats defense. Let's fucking go, New England. I think that was a streamed defensive team there for him, but obviously a good matchup against Miami. If you are looking to get points stack up against Miami, they look awful. I cannot express how bad they look. We only won by 6 points, so that's not much of me saying. It's a bit of a backhanded compliment to my team, but yeah, Miami, they really look terrible. So definitely keep an eye out there. But as you were probably predicting from my tone, those points there would not be quite enough for Ace to take the victory, as JMC would tally his first win on the season after, we talked about it last week. Al Martinet scored the most. He scored the least. Came back really nicely with this week. Surprisingly, Josh Allen did not have a very impressive performance. Only 11 points from him. Obviously, our top quarterback and top overall point scorer last week. That is a bit surprising to see. Just 11 from him. But Kyren Williams with 10 and Kenneth Walker with 18. Did a nice job in his running back room. For receivers, Jalen Waddle had a solid performance. The big story, though, was Rome Odunze, who put up 31.8 points. Tua did rack up 19 there, a little bit of a push at the end, so solid from his second quarterback. And hey, when Josh Allen's your first quarterback, your second quarterback can be kind of whoever it is. Really, really nice start for JMC there. Here, just want to shout it out. He did not make any mistakes in terms of who he started. Everyone. Pardon me. There was just one mistake on the tight end side, but it did not end up mattering for him, and we'll get to why I was thinking that a little bit later. But really nice work. They talk about start accuracy and all that. So JMC did a nice job here, and yeah, impressive performance. Nice too for him that if Josh Allen's gonna have a down week, it's nice that you still get the win in that week, and the other guys step up a little bit there. So very impressive. And finally, we'll move down to Okie Sooner versus Al Martinet. Of course, both of those teams came in 1-0. Al Martinet being our highest scorer from the week before, but it would be a bit of a precipitous plunge for him, as he would become our lowest scorer in this week from top to bottom, racking up just 94.62 points. Not bad performances from his quarterbacks, Jordan Love and Daniel Jones, obviously filling in for the injured Brock Purdy. They had 20 and 22 points, respectively there. Daniel Jones, another good performance. Could be something to keep an eye on, but fortunately the running backs did not do a great job. Just 8 and 1 points from Benson and Krotsky Merritt there. Justin Jefferson with 11, we love to see, and Zay Flowers with 14, another solid performance there. But overall, outside of the quarterbacks, it was a bit of a disappointing week for Al Martinet, as he failed to crest that 100-point mark. Over on Okie's side, he did tally up a solid week with 128 points. Jaden Daniels with 19. Fortunately, does look like he might be day-to-day or, questionable for that next matchup. So that's something to keep an eye on. Okie might be, looking on the trade market or the waiver wires for a quarterback there. 16 from Kamara. 10 from Mike Evans. He's been, nice little solid, consistent number there. A bit disappointing from Geno Smith, who he did have a good week last week with 18, just 6 this week. Bit of a tough one on Monday Night Football. I don't know how you feel. Not a fan of the Monday Night doubleheader. Just give us the one game. This is fantasy football, Zang, not regular football. Talk about fantasy. Okay, I'm here to talk about fantasy. Once again, where were we? Oh, yeah, Javonte Williams, who had a 20-point performance last week. Phenomenal work from the running back. Had 25 this week, so topping that. He's looking like a mainstay in Okie's lineup. And Puka Nacua, who again had a phenomenal performance last week with 23, topped it with 27 this week. So a couple of guys who are looking like they are going to do are pretty much locks. And we talked about this a little bit last week with Oki, where he may have, an embarrassment of riches kind of on the negative side, you could say, where he had 16, 22, 17, and 19 points on his bench from 4 different wide receivers. Also a 10 in there, which is like nothing to sneeze at. That is a lot of points, quote unquote, left on the table. Didn't have phenomenal starts this week, so obviously you could have gotten more, but nothing catastrophic. But that is an uncomfortable place to live when all of your guys are scoring a lot of points, but you never know which ones are going to score the most points. So definitely, I know. Interestingly enough, in the baseball league, things heated up pretty quickly with trades. We saw trades going off pretty quickly. Haven't seen our first trade yet outside of draft picks. So if you are in need of a wide receiver, maybe take a look at Oki Sooners guys, and Oki could look to kind of diversify his bench there, because his bench is 5 wide receivers, and can be a little tricky navigating which one to pick. So, obviously just starting his lineup. So keep an eye out there. But yeah, solid win from Oki Sooner, who joins the 3 teams at 2-0 at the top, and Al Martinet in that group in the middle at 1-1. So those were our matchups for the week. We'll move into our standing segment now, which is, of course, a little bit more spread out now. We got 3 categories: the 2-0s, the 1-1s, and the 0-2s. Sammy Bell is at the top of our list at 2-0. He does lead the league in total points scored with 303. Zangarang is in second place, with Oki in third place. Those are the 3 2-0 teams. Onto our group of 1-1 folks. Flaming Prius leads the group at 4, with JMC at 5th. Mike is in 6th place, Anna Kendrick in 7th, Al Martinet in 8th, and Bose in 9th. In 10th place, leading off our group of 0-2s, is KJ Lee. We talked a little bit about how he's been getting unlucky. He has 333 points scored against him. That does lead the league. So definitely getting unlucky early on. He is an impressive team. I would expect to see him bounce back soon. That doesn't feel like a pattern that is going to continue, obviously being completely out of his control. So if you're looking for a sleeper, keep an eye on KJ. 11th place, for Rangers Cowboys, and Ace Garcia, our commissioner, down in the basement in 12th place. There we are. So those are our standings. Of course, we'll get to see them shuffle up a little bit more even next week, as, I love it how it gets more and more spread out as more and more people get different records. Right now it's kind of 3 groups. It'll spread out more and more, and that'll be a lot of fun. We'll move down to our bench blunders now, and, again, blunders these aren't always mistakes, and I'll do my best to highlight when maybe they're not so much really a mistake, but just a fact of, hey, this guy did outscore someone on your bench, in your starting lineup, pardon me. Aces, this one hurts. Tucker Kraft with 24.4 points. Of course, just 14 separating him and JMC. Green Bay's tight end would have secured the win for him had he started him. For Al Martinet, Keenan Allen's 17 points that he had would not have been enough, obviously, with Al Martinet being our lowest scorer. But interesting thing to keep an eye on there for the Chargers player. Jatavion Sanders with 12 for Anna is, just one we kind of shout out as that was his highest scoring player on the bench, but, nothing to worry too much about. For Flaming Prius, we mentioned, some even more impressive performances from the wide receiver room. Wandale Robinson had 28.2 points. So he could have had 3 of the best receivers of the week, still had 2 of them, did phenomenal work there, but that's definitely a name to keep an eye on. And boy, it's looking like receivers are pretty valuable in this PPR format. So, I know typically in fantasy running backs are kind of the lean. Definitely looks like wide receivers are, you don't want to say at a premium because there seem to be a lot of them are doing good work, but where the points are. So interesting to see how that shapes things on the waiver wire and definitely on the trade market. That's what I'm most interested to look at. For Bose, Cooper Kupp and his 16 points was his highest scorer on the bench. JMC had, I referenced earlier, I thought he had sort of the quote-unquote perfect week of starting all the right guys. There was that one little mistake with the tight end there. But for Kayshon Boutte, who had 8.6 points, he actually didn't outscore any of JMC's wide receivers, or like flex guys or anything. So, in terms of that, like, he started all the right guys in that case. Sort of, I guess you could say then, what was it? Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, the tight end. He scored 7 points, whereas Evan Ingram just scored 2 for him. So, hey, an extra 5 points here or there. Not bad. Overall, great starting week from JMC. And, nice when the highest points on your bench didn't outscore anyone in your actual starting lineup. Don't think that's the case for any of the rest of us. For KJ Lee, Jaylen Warren and his 17 points was his high scorer there. For Mike, Juwan Johnson with 15. Okie Sooner had Devontae Adams put up 22.6 points. One of those wide receivers that we mentioned. The other ones, because I did, preview their names. Is this Tetoera McMillan? Tell me, I know I pronounced that wrong. I know. I'm a baseball gal. That's where I'm at. I know the names there. Tell me, I'll get there eventually. This is why H should be hosting, guys, really. But no, it's fine. McMillan had 16. Devontae Adams, as we mentioned, 22. Deebo Samuel, again, doing really well out there in Washington with 17, and Juwan Jennings with 19 there. So that is this kind of a quartet of really, high-quality receivers that were on the bench there. But he walked away with the win, so hey, can't get too mad about that in the end. For, let's see where we're at. Rangers Cowboys. Jake Ferguson, the tight end, is the one I previewed earlier. He did outscore Travis Kelce for the second straight week. Being a Cowboys guy, you won't believe this, but Rangers Cowboys is a Cowboys fan. So, wouldn't shock me if we see Jake Ferguson starting sooner rather than later. And hey, if you're in the market for a tight end, I don't know. Travis Kelce could be on the market. I don't have any information there. Just a thought that could, possibly be a name to keep an eye on. For Sammy Bell, Tyreek Hill had 16.9 points. And for me, Zang Rashad White, the running back over in Tampa Bay, did have 14 points. So, of course, would have outscored King Henry. But this is, just to sort of use myself as an example, that's where I don't know if we can really call that a bench blunder. Would any of us have said it was a bad idea to start, Derrick Henry, especially against Cleveland? Probably not. But, that's the way fantasy football works. That's why the people who know what they're doing get paid the big bucks, We'll move down to our team of the week. As you might remember, this is a list of sort of the best players who did rack up points for their team. So again, we're not counting those bench blunder guys. That's why we did flip this. So kind of which guys are being left off of this. If you're like, hey, what the hell? This guy, I looked on the app. This guy scored a lot. That's why they're not on here. Our QB is Jared Goff, who put up 33.96 in, unfortunately, that losing effort for KJ Lee. James Cook put up 26.5 for Bose, with Danny Akane putting up 26.2. Those were our two running backs. The wide receiver room, as you heard, was absolutely loaded this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown with 39.2 was our lead, with Malik Neighbors putting up 37.7 for Prius. Trey McBride with 13.8 actually ended up being our best tight end. He was the fifth best tight end overall on the week, but guys were there was one guy on waivers and 4 guys who were on benches. So, a little bit of an asterisk for McBride, but they don't ask how, they ask how many. So he has made his way onto the team of the week, and maybe one of those fun little, hey, remember when Trey McBride was the best tight end for a week? Yeah, that'd be fun. Jamar Chase was our flex player, our star flex player, with 36.5. And who said you need 2 quarterbacks? Roma Dunze with 31.8 for JMC was actually our super flex. None of the quarterbacks outscored him. So, hey, I know again, we've referenced, we talk about it a little bit as, the quote unquote second QB spot. Maybe not so much, or doesn't always have to be. He, of course, did not play in the super flex spot. He was, listed as a flex player. So that is the other thing I should mention. Like, this isn't just guys who are listed in that spot. It's just kind of building the best team, quote unquote. Brandon Aubrey with 23 was Sammy's for Sammy's team, was the best kicker. That's not a shock. When he's almost tying the score for one of the running backs, that's pretty impressive. 23 points from a kicker. What happened in that game? I didn't watch that. Dallas is always they've always got something going on over there. And then Seattle Seahawks defense was our best one that tallied points for a team. They were the third choice overall, but we did have one on the bench and one left on waiver wire. So Mike with his hometown team there, racking up some good points for him. Our penultimate segment, the wasted waivers, is just a reminder, little check-in of who put up a solid performance on waivers this week and who's maybe somebody to keep an eye out for as, waivers have been going and free agency opens tomorrow as I'm recording this on Tuesday night. So Hunter Renfrow, no, not that one. Not the Royals / Padres / was he on the Brewers for a bit? / Red Sox outfielder. No, not that one. Hunter Renfrow, the Carolina Panthers wide receiver, put up 23.8. More on the theme of it. It's like wide receiver week, man. I think we just found our episode title. Troy Franklin with Denver. Again, say it with me, wide receiver, put up 24 points. And, of course, we did want to hit the one quarterback here. Russell Wilson, Giants Nation. Let's ride. Put up 31.3. I remember when he was in free agency, people were, photoshopping him in different jerseys and doing all the Steelers Nation, let's ride. Rams Nation, let's ride. Bears Nation, let's ride. With all the different teams. Of course, when he got traded to the Broncos, he did that. That was pretty funny. But yeah, 31.3. Again, we're talking about fantasy, Zang. What are you doing here? 31.3 for Russell Wilson. Nice. And I know we have at least two teams who are looking for quarterbacks. Of course, I forgot to mention J.J. McCarthy does look like he is, potentially going to be out for a little bit with an injury as well. I think I saw, I hope I'm not wrong here, double check my work, but Russell Wilson, name to keep an eye on. Finally, we will move down to next week's notes. So, of course, this starts as you're listening to it, most likely, unless you're a sicko staying up until 10 at night West Coast time. This starts tomorrow for you on Thursday. As Thursday Night Football does start, it will, begin our third week of fantasy. So, Mike versus Flaming Prius is our first matchup. Flaming Prius with a 57% chance to take down Mike. Just a quick check-in at where they're at. Obviously, Mike and Flaming Prius both sitting at 1-1 in 6th and 4th place, respectively. Zang versus Anna Kendrick is our second matchup. 54% projected for Zang over Anna. I got to tell you what, I don't like that. First 2 weeks, I was projected to lose and I won. So the fact I'm projected to win tells me I'm going to get my door's blown off by Anna here. So we'll see how that goes. I might be joining the 2-1 team next week. We shall see. But Zangarang, the team Zangarang, me Zang, sitting up at 2-0 with Anna at 1-1 in 7th place. I am in 2nd. Ace versus Al Martinet is our third matchup. 55% of Al Martinet over Ace. Definitely looking for a bounce back after a bit of a disappointing second week there. Al Martinet is in 8th place at 1-1 with Ace down at 12th in our basement at 0-2. Definitely looking to work his way out of there. Matchup number 4 is JMC versus Okie Sooner. 57% projected for Okie Sooner over JMC. Okie Sooner is one of our 3 teams undefeated at 2-0. With JMC is the other team. There we go. JMC at 1-1 in 5th place. So, right near the top of that 1-1 group. Our 5th matchup is Rangers versus Bows. Rangers sitting down in 11th place at 0-2 with Bows at the bottom of the 1-1 group at in 9th place there. So both teams definitely looking for a little bit of a bounce back, looking to kind of work their way back in to the middle of the fray there. 59% projected for Rangers over Bows. And our last matchup is Sammy versus KJ Lee. 54% projected for Sammy over KJ. This is kind of an interesting one where obviously, as we mentioned, Sammy has the most points for, KJ has the most points against. So, we typically, I think of points against in fantasy football particularly, because it's, the sample size is so much smaller as it's a bit like BABIP. It can be, a bit predictive. If you have the most points scored against you, you're probably better than your record shows. And I do think KJ is better than his record shows. On the other hand, we have seen how good Sammy Yanks is. That team is unbelievable. It is stacked. If I had to say it, he probably had one of, if not the best draft. It's one of those where, he's kind of going and then you look at it and you're like, geez, Christ, man, how did he end up with all those guys? We've got a 2-0 facing off against a 0-2. I have been the 0-2 since the scores came in. I've been humming Mr. 0-2 to the tune of Clips's Mr. Me Too. I don't know why that song has been in my head recently, but so our Rangers, Cowboys, and OKJ and Ace Garcia, they're Mr. 0-2. Mr. 0-2. Go listen to Clips again. They're great. That is just a little bit of a look at our next week's matchups. We're looking forward to, joining you again next week, hopefully with both of us. Should be a good time, having both of us on and be able to banter back and forth a little bit. This has been a ton of fun so far. I'm really enjoying myself, and I certainly hope that is the case for all the rest of you. So best of luck in this coming week, and we will talk to you soon.
When you come out in NFL lollygagging and, not going through the motions, that kind of happens.